Hi, in this video we're going to walk through, we're actually going to build a solution today. So this is following on from a conversation with a customer, and what we want to do, the customer and I, is put together a proof of concept that allows people to register themselves as being interested in becoming a digital champion. Now, there are lots of ways that could be done. You could use a simple form, but to kind of extend and build upon, to kind of build and extend upon some of the ways that this customer works already, we're going to do this using Dataverse for Teams. So I figured while I'm building it, I may as well record the session and see if it's of any use to you. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be using a Power Virtual Agent to capture some information off of a user and register them as being a digital champion. So we're going to ask a couple of very simple questions. We're going to ask them which technology they're interested in, and we're going to also ask them what level of kind of activity. How do they want to be involved in the community? Do they want to just provide support in Yammer and maybe over email, or are they happy with something a little bit more hands-on? So we're going to capture that information using Power Virtual Agents. We're going to take that information, store it in Dataverse for Teams, and to surface a list or a gallery of digital champions, we're going to build a Power App that takes the information from Dataverse and surfaces it, much like a website like LinkedIn. That's as far as we'll get for now. Now, possibly after I've run this through with the customer, we'll be looking at how are there any other ways that we could find a digital champion? Could we use Power Virtual Agents or something like that? So what I've done just ahead of time is I've created a team called the Champions Community, and I've enabled that team for Dataverse for Teams. So what we're going to start off doing is we're going to start by building a chatbot or a Power Virtual Agent. I'm not sure what any of you know of Power Virtual Agents, but they are part of the Power Platform, and they are pretty much a no-code solution to building a bot. The kind of bot that we're going to be building would be best described as a concierge bot. So we're going to welcome the user, much like if you arrived at a hotel or some kind of venue or a restaurant or something. You're greeted by somebody. So let's call this bot the Champions Community. Yeah, so it's going to capture some information. It's going to perform some basic tasks. So some best practices around bot development, or bot design probably would be a better way of describing it, are to ensure that the user of the bot understands the capabilities that the bot offers. So we want to make sure that the first message we send to the user is going to be setting their expectations around what can be done using this bot. And that's where we're going to start. Now, in Power Virtual Agents, it's broken down, or if you were to think about how you might break down a conversation, this is what we call a topic. So a topic is a segment of a conversation. And straight away, out of the box, when it comes back, you will see there are several topics available to us. We have a few that are here as readiness for us to learn about how a bot conversation can be strung together. But then we've got some of the out of the box ones. So we're going to take a look at the greeting topic first. Now the greeting topic is going to be triggered by a phrase, and you can see in this middle section of the topic we have 52 different phrases that, if detected, will trigger this topic. So if I was to type hi, you can see hi as a trigger phrase. So what will happen there is the bot will detect that I've used the word hi, and then this topic is running. Now if we click on this button here to go to look at the authoring canvas, this is going to show us what's actually happening when the trigger phrase is detected. So this is the topic. Let's take a look at it. So you can see at the top we have the trigger phrase, underneath you have the message. This is the greeting message, and here is that sort of concierge style experience I was talking about, where it's telling us what it can do. So I can't ask this bot about the weather. I can't ask it to book me a flight to Sydney, for example, right? Because it's not listed as one of the things that I can do. So I'm going to replace this. I'm going to say, hi, I'm a virtual agent. I can help you register as a digital champion. Spell that correctly. If you'd like to speak to a human, let me know. Okay, that's fair enough. So what can I help you today? Now that's a question, so and not a message. So I'm going to delete that. I'm going to say, ask a question. So, would you like to register as a champion? And it's going to be multiple choice. It will be yes, or it will be no. Now, we could probably optimize this and not have this as a step, but essentially what I've done there is I've added in a question, and I've selected it to be a multiple choice. So I'm restricting the options here. Now, think about the conversations. If this is for an implementation that you're designing, maybe map out a conversation from end to end and design your breakpoints. So at which point should a topic end and a decision needs to be made. I don't need to save the response. So there's an opportunity here for me to say, I want to save what the user's selected, which we'll use for sure shortly. But we don't need to for this instance. So if they say yes, well then that's where we're going to build our own topic, and the user will capture the user's information. If they say no, well then what we can do is we can go to another topic, and we know, or what I know, and I'm about to show you, we have some, referring back to these out of the box topics, we have a goodbye topic, so I can pass them straight to that. So that will end the conversation. So if we save this, what should happen is we will be able to test it. And this here is the test bot. This allows us to experience what we've just built. So I can say hi. We know that's going to trigger the greeting topic. And now you can see it says, hi, I'm a virtual agent. I can help you register as a digital champion. Would you like to register, yes or no? If I say no, then we should be passed to the goodbye topic, which looks like that works nicely. Okay, so that's good. So let's go back into topics and we'll build our own topic. And this topic, we'll call this champion registration. Now, I'm not going to add any trigger phrases in here because I don't want anybody jumping to this point of the conversation. It's the trigger phrases are useful. I could simply type in the letter T, and then I could use this for testing. So I could just type in T, and then I could skip this first part of the conversation. I'm not going to do that, but that's like a little bit of a development trick, if you want, that you can use. So this is to register as a champion. So if we go to the authoring canvas, we will see a blank canvas. We have 0 trigger phrases. So the first thing that we want is not a message. The first thing we're going to add in is a question, and we're going to phrase this as they're continuing from the previous section. Okay, so we're imagining that they've said yes. So we'll say, great, you want to register. The first thing, obviously there are probably 100 ways of designing this conversation, but bear with me. The first thing I need you to do is to select technology that you can assist the community with? Multiple choice. Now, I mean, we'll stick to one technology. So let's have Teams. We'll add in Power Apps. We'll add in Power Automate. And we will add in Power Virtual Agents. Now you can see every time I add in an option, the whole screen seems to shift off to the left, which made this a bit difficult. But if you just click and hold in the middle of the canvas, you can actually drag and move this topic around, which makes it easy. Now here we actually do want to save this response. So what we can do here is click in the var box, and we'll call this var_technology. Now we have a couple of options around the scope of this variable. Do we want it to be available anywhere? So, i.e., we can pass this around to, to other topics, which I don't think we need. Or we can just say it's going to be limited to this topic. It's much like, context variables in Power Apps. So you can have, different kinds of variables. You have global variables and local variables. It's a very similar concept. So we're going to store the selection in var technology, and we don't need to do anything with any of these conditions. So we can simply delete all of the conditions because we just simply want to collect the user's option. The user's selection. Okay, so that's the first question. We already know who they are, right? Well, and I'll talk about that in a second. So we know the user's identity. Now we know what technology they want. So the next thing is to ask them what level of involvement do they want. So we can say thank you. The last question is what level of involvement, let's go like that, it's got spell check on there for me. The last question is what level of involvement are you willing? Oh god, this is harder than actually creating the bot. Is what type of assistance can you offer? All right, I'm sure there are much better ways of asking this question. As long as you're staring with me, then don't worry about my lack of creativity. So let's say Yammer communities. We'll say email assistance. We'll say imagine we have Ask the Expert sessions. And finally, imagine we also have hands-on assistance. Now again, we're not going to do anything with any of these conditions, so we can just get rid of these. They're taking up space that we don't need them to. And what we will do is save this response in a variable. So we have the technology, and now we have the assistance. Okay, so let's save that. Once it's saved, the test bot will reload. There you go, it's refreshing, and now we're able to test it. So we can say hi. We know now that our greeting topic is going to be triggered. Now we can say yes. Now I don't think we did anything. I don't think we've wired up. So there's no connection between the yes selection in the greeting topic and the champion registration topic. So we need to go back and fix that. So we go back into our greeting topic, go to the authoring canvas, and now this time when the user selects yes, we want to point them to a different topic, but this time it's going to be the champion registration topic. Okay, so let's save that and test it. And then for now, we're very nearly done in Power Virtual Agents. I'm keen for you to see how quickly you can stand up these proof of concepts. So when I share them and I say it's a couple of hours of work, you can see there's literally a couple of hours of work. Okay, so the first thing you need is select technology. I'm going to say I'm going to be a Power Apps champion, and I'm going to offer email assistance. Now that's good. That's as far as we've got. We need to go back into our topic and say thank you, and then give them an option. Now, at the moment, this is the only thing that the bot does, right? It only allows them to register, so we can simply say goodbye. So we can say, let's send a message. We will add something in here shortly. So we'll say thanks, and then we will go to another topic, the goodbye topic. Okay, so we've captured the information and we've said goodbye. We're not actually storing that information anywhere at the moment, but we're going to come back to that shortly. So let's run through one last time. I want to register as a champion. I will be a Teams champion this time, and I'm happy to do Ask the Experts. Great, thanks. Thanks for chatting with me. Bye. So we could tidy that up. We don't want to say thanks too many times, but excellent. Right, so we're saved. Let's go into Power Apps now. So we're in our Champions community. Let's try and okay. So let's see more Champions community. There we go. So there's our bot. Now, next steps. So we're capturing, at the moment, we're capturing information, storing it variables in the bot, and that's fine, but we need to be able to store it permanently. So let's add in a new table. So let's do a new table, and we're going to call this our champions. Now the primary column name can be the name, and we can use the name column to store some kind of way of identifying the user. So this should be a pretty simple table. We're going to use the name column for that, to store data about who the person actually is. And then we're going to add in two additional columns. One will be the technology, and the second will be the level of support. So we'll just call this assistance type. Oops. And you can see that it removes the white space for me. Okay, so that's our data. Done. Brilliant. The next thing is we need some way of taking the information from the bot and storing it in our table, and that's where Power Automate fits into our solution. So we're going to do a new cloud flow, and it's going to be automated. So we need to think about the event that's going to trigger it, and the event that will trigger it will be a Power Virtual Agent. So let's call our flow new champion registration. I'll do that in a moment. Skip that. So our trigger will be Power Virtual Agents. So you can see we've got Power Virtual Agents. So when a Power Virtual Agent calls a flow, so we're going to select that. We're going to add an input, and it will be a text input, and this is going to be the user's ID. So user ID. I don't know if it's going to be the GUID or the email address. We'll figure that out in a moment. Then the other thing we need, or the other two things we need, is the technology and finally the assistance type. Okay, so let's call our flow new champion registration. Okay, so what do we want to do? Well, the first thing we want to do is add a row in our Dataverse table, right? obviously we would let's think about this in a little bit more detail later. But what we'll probably want to do is check that the person hasn't already registered. And if they've registered, we could say, you're already registered as this technology with this assistance type. Do you want to register with a different technology or a different assistance type? Maybe additional. But for now, let's keep it simple. So here's our champions table. And if we go to show advanced options, so the name, we're going to use the user's ID, user's ID. The assistance type will be assistance type. And the technology will be technology. Then we want to, what do we want to do? I think that's about it, isn't it, really? We probably want to return something back to Power Virtual Agents. Return a value. Now, let's put an output of return value. Return value. And we're going to say it's going to be 1. So bear with me. Then we're going to add in a parallel branch. We're going to add in Power Virtual Agents again. Add an output text. Return value 0. And what we'll do is we'll configure run after. So if this fails or times out. Okay, so let me quickly explain my thinking there. So what we're trying to do, we're taking information from the Power Virtual Agent, we're adding it in to our Dataverse table. If that commit operation was successful, then we would expect to get a value of 1 back. If it failed or timed out, we would get a 0 back. So that's how we can then let the bot know that this was successful or not. So that's saving. Now, a thing to know about just generally with Power Virtual Agents is that if you want to call an action, which is what we're going to do shortly, the flow that you're trying to associate or call from Power Virtual Agents must be part of a solution. It needs to be solution aware. So go back into Power Virtual Agents, go on chatbots. Let's go into edit our chatbot. Because now we've captured that information, let's see if we can actually call that flow and get it to commit into Dataverse. So champion registration, go to the authoring canvas. Right, so there's our 2 questions. So right in the middle here, we want to call an action. And what I'm hoping to see is our flow that we just created. Now, this flow is part of a solution. So everything that we're doing now is part of a solution, which does mean we can export it, and we'll cover that maybe in a different session. But here we've got the user ID, the technology, and the assistance type. Now, we have 2 variables that are available to us right from the beginning, because this is all in Dataverse for Teams and we can only ever publish it in Dataverse for Teams, at least that's my understanding. We're able to capture the current user's display name and their ID. Now, I don't particularly want to have a list of people's actual data. I prefer to store their identifier, so their GUID. That way it just, it means that if somebody reads the table, they can't just see the person's name and stuff. I mean, we're not storing anything that's really sensitive, but it's just something that I prefer to do. And I think we can when we get to Power Apps in a moment, we'll exploit that ID. Right. So so all I'm doing here is so the flow gives us an input, 3 inputs which we defined in the flow. and I'm just selecting them and pairing them up with the variables that we have, and it's going to return something. So what we can do here, let's delete this because we're going to change what happens next. We're going to add a condition, and what we're going to do is we're going to say if the return value here is equal to 1. Remember that worked. So we can go to another topic. Wow. Go to another topic that says thank you. And all other conditions, i.e. the only other condition. Now what we'll do there is what can we do there? We'll pass them back. Maybe we'll build, we won't do it now, but we'll build another topic that says, sorry, something went wrong. Would you like to try again? And maybe we'll try and run the flow again. But let's take this one step at a time. Okay, so let's say, hi. I do want to register as a champion. And I want to be a Power Apps champion, and I'm happy to provide email assistance. So what should be happening now is the flow is running. It's returned the value of 1, which looks to me like it was successful, at least. So it's passed us to the thank you topic, which just says you're welcome. So maybe that's not the right selection. We need to think about closing out the conversation a little bit. But anyway, let's not get too bogged down with these little details. We'll go through later on and tidy this up. Okay, so let's go back. There is our flow. Here's our table. Columns. Edit data. And it worked. Look, there we go. So there's my GUID, my demo tenant. That's my user GUID. That's the type of assistance I'm happy to help or happy to offer. And here is the technology. Wonderful. So let's go to Power Apps now. We're in Power Apps. Even better. So let's go to Apps and we'll build a new Canvas app. And this app will be our Hall of Fame, right? So we will build something that surfaces all of the digital champions and the technology and the kind of help that they're offering, hopefully. Okay, I paused the video there just because it took a minute or so to come up. So let's call this our Champions Community Hall of Fame. Okay, that's good. So start this screen with data with layout. Interesting. Right, we're going to start building our app. So we've got screen 1. So let's rename that first. Now, a thing to consider when you're naming screens is accessibility. We want to build that as we're going. Now, a screen reader, so users that use screen readers, it will read out the screen name. And it's important if we have multiple screens in our app, it's very important that the user knows whereabouts in the app that we are. So let's call this the Champions Hall of Fame screen. Okay, good. Now we can let's add in a rectangle. It's always nice to have some kind of header for the app, isn't it? Now, in case we decide to change the way this app responds to devices, we won't use fixed widths. We'll use something that's more responsive in its style. So we're going to say that the same width as the screen, and we'll say it should be 60 pixels high. That gives us a nice little banner at the top of the screen where we can put maybe, some kind of button to show some navigation if we need to build it, or we can put in the we could put in like the title of the app or something. Now again, one of the things we want to make sure is that the tab index is set to -1. Now again, for accessibility reasons, or features, sorry, not reasons, the tab index defines whether or not this control should be part of a tab group, so that the user can tab backwards and forwards through the various things in the screen. It's not, it's decorative, so -1 means it's excluded from any tab groups, which is important because now the screen reader won't read out what it is, and it also won't involve it in part of the tabbing. But it's an important thing to consider if we start adding in icons and things like that. What we could do is we can add in a couple of icons to capture people's sentiment about the app. So we can have like a smiley face and an unhappy face if they're still there. If not, we can use thumbs. Yeah, here we go. So let's say smile. Let's add that in. Let's copy that. And then change that one to a frown. Why am I doing this? I'll explain that in a second. Okay, so we've got a smile and a frown. Let's put those in this corner, up the top corner of the screen, and zoom in just a bit so that we can. So this, we'll use this to capture if the user of the app is happy. If they like the app, they can send a smile or they could send a frown. We'll build that in to our solution later, because what I'm thinking with this is we could use something like application insights. We can capture the user sentiment. Let's make that slightly different color maybe. Right, okay, so there's our smiley face and our sad face, which we'll worry about later. Let's add in oops, I accidentally clipped vertical gallery, which is kind of what we want actually. So this gallery, I've accidentally clicked on that, but it was a bit of a happy accident really, because we needed a gallery anyway. So let's make that the full width of the screen for now. And what we'll do is we'll fill this with our digital champions. So and again, I'm not sure if you're watching what level of Power Apps experience you have, but what we're going to do is we're going to connect this gallery up to our list of digital champions. Now, if we click on the data option here, we're going to add in some tables. Now, this is so smart. It already knows which custom tables are available to me in this environment, and this is exactly the one that I want. So I want to connect the app up to this data source, which is our digital champions. And what I want to do when the app starts, so if I click on start, I'm going to cache all of the champions. So I'm going to use a function called clear collect. I'm going to give this a name of col champions, and I'm going to say go off and bring me all of the champions. So what that will do, as the app runs, it will cache them and make them available in the app, so we don't have to make any unnecessary calls back to Dataverse. Now, one of the cool things, if you click on these ellipses at the app object, you can run on start, so it will actually go off and collect that for you. So now back to our gallery, we have two data sources which are both identical, but we're going to use col champions, right? So now you can see that the gallery has tried its best to connect the various elements that make up the cell, or the thing that we call this particular instance, to properties in the Dataverse table. And I'm just going to delete these because I don't want any of them. So we should see some slightly funky things happening while I'm doing this, but it's kind of to be expected. Get rid of that shape, delete that. And the rectangle, it's just a white rectangle, I believe. Get rid of, whoops, excuse me, wrong option. Let's delete that. Okay, brilliant. So we've got our gallery. Let's rename that. Now another best practice, because if you think about app development, I'm going to build what I can in about an hour, and then that's it. But if this was an app that you're actually building and you're going to maintain over time, well, then you might build it, launch it, and then never come back to it for 3 or 4 months, right? And then you might have to make a ton of updates. And if you've just left everything named like this, it might have made sense 3 or 4 months ago when you were developing the app, but now when you're approaching it with fresh eyes, you're like, oh God, what am I even looking at? So I always utilize naming conventions and putting comments where I can, so that when I come back to this, it all makes sense. So things like this icon, which one was that? That's the frown. So I can say, I'm going to rename that. So ICO frown. That means that one is the smile. The rectangle, well, that's just decorative. So I'm going to call that SHP because it's a shape. I'm going to call that the header background. Now, again, remembering as we're going along, we're building accessibility into this. We're not just going to come and retrofit it. Now, I was talking about tab indexes, and unfortunately it's the same with icons. So an icon out of the box, because it can be decorative, like warning icons, for example. They might not actually do anything when you click them. They are also set to -1. So I'm going to set this to 0. I'm going to also set this one to 0 so that it's part of a tab index group. You can order them, and we'll potentially come back and do that. But for now, let's leave it at 0 so that they're now part of the group, so that you can tab around it. If we preview, we should be able to. Or maybe I should have set it to 1. Oh, no. We'll come back to that one. I think it should be 1, not 0. Then as we go, that's what these sessions are all about. I can remember it all. Right, so they should now work as part of the tabbing. Oh, I think it did. Okay, we'll do some testing in a bit. I don't want to get bogged down. Okay, so back to our gallery. Now, the gallery itself, it's a vertical gallery, which is great. So it will stack things vertically by default. But we can adjust how many will appear horizontally as well. So I'm going to say that we could have like 5 cards on the top. And when I say cards, what I am actually talking about is profiles. Now, if we said, we've got the user's ID. So let's talk about how we're going to make this look. And if you look at a site like LinkedIn, you know that pretty much every user has a nice image. They have their name, maybe their department or job title. So we're gonna copy that kind of format. And what we're going to do is we're going to add in some images to use as as design elements. So what I'm going to do, and bear with me, it will hopefully make sense as we're going along. So the background fill, I'm going to select a color. Let's use some kind of bluey. Great, this isn't working. I want to use a bluey type color. Something like that. All right, let's just use one of the out of the box colors then. Okay, right, brilliant. So now I've got a blue color and a sample image. I don't want the sample image, I just want the shape. Right? So now I've got a header. Now the reason I've used an image is because you can use you can put borders on the corners. So if you look at the advanced properties, you have the radius top left, radius top right. If I change from 3, so top left can be 7, top right can be 7, the bottom can be 0, so a nice square corner. This will all make sense hopefully shortly. There, you can see I've got a nice rounded corner at the top of my image. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to set that height to be, let's say 60 pixels, so the same as our header, so that they look similar. Wonderful. Then I'm going to add in, copy and paste that, because I'm going to add in another shape. This time I'm going to change the background to be a grey colour. So let's choose one of the really light tones of grey. F0, F0, F0. That's cool. Now the top right and left corners have the radius, which is not what I want. This time I want it to be on the bottom corner, so I'm going to change that to 0. And then change this to 7. 7. Let's take a look at that. So let's preview the app. Okay, that looks quite nice. All apart from when we hover over the shape, it's changing. That's because it's set to be edit, and if we change this to be view, then that should stop all of that hovering business. Now these are decorational, so again we want to check the tab index to make sure that yeah, they're -1, so they're set to 0. Let's preview that. Wonderful. Okay, so that's the first champion, and we know that this is my profile, right? So this time I'm going to add in another image. Before I do that, I'm going to try, I'm not sure if I've got it in my policy, but Office 365 users. I want to use this connector because I want to look up the person's image. So I'm going to try and add it in. I don't know if it will work because I don't know that I have if it's part of my data loss prevention policies, but we'll find out as we go. So I'm going to add in another image. We're going to pop that in the middle and in the middle. We'll worry about the size in a moment. And let's just see if I do in fact even have a photo. So use a photo v2. Now remember, in our Dataverse table, we use the name column to store the user's GUID. Now that's what we're going to pass into this function here, the user photo version 2 is the name field. Now this item simply responds or relates to this particular object, this instance. So let's pop that in and see what happens. Does it come back with anything? It does. There's a picture of me looking rather miserable. Not sure what's happening there. So what we're going to do is we're going to change this from 100 to, let's try 75, see if that's too small. It's pretty small, maybe 80. And what we're going to do is we're going to make this a circular image, just like you see on, pretty much everywhere in Office 365 these days, but also on sites like LinkedIn, etc., etc. So this time, in fact, we don't even need to do it in advanced anymore. You can see the border radius is currently set to 3. If we set that to some crazy number like 100, then this should turn into a circle. It should make there we go. Now if we put a border, we make the border white. Let's if that worked or not. Make it 2 pixels wide, let's make it 3 pixels so we can see it. Okay, all right, let's have a look here. Border color. That is set to white. Interesting. Border thickness. Let's try 5. Doesn't really seem to have done much. Okay, well let's come back to that. Let's preview now. Okay, so there's a picture of me. This whole thing's looking a little bit too big. So let's tweak the width of the tile. So it's too wide in my opinion. Let's make it much smaller. Put the image in the middle. Okay, now we can add in a label. So go add a label. That's the kind of help that I'm offering, but that's not what I want to do. I want, oh, whoops. What I wanted to do, and let's hope, I don't know if I saved it. This might be a moment where I stop the video for a while and recover what I've just done. Almost there. Okay, so that's not the end of the world. We didn't lose too much. Praise whoever for autosave. So let's make that smaller. Zoom in again to where we were. Because what I want to do is add in the person's name. So that our champions are just pictures. So we're going to add in a label. So we've got assistance type. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be showing anything, which is slightly odd. But we've got the Office 365 connector. So we're going to use the Office 365 users connector, and we're going to look at the user profile. We're going to pass in the ID, which we know is this item.name. All right, this item.name. So that will go and retrieve the user's profile with some luck. And then what we want to do is we want to use a dot to get one of the properties. We want the display name. So with some luck, it comes back with my name, and it does. Now if we center that, align center, sure, I didn't click. There's some serious mouse issues in this demo. I'm sorry. Okay. All right, there we are. So we're in business again. I'm going to save this because some strange things are occurring with my mouse. No, I don't want that to upset the flow of our demo. Right, so the size is 10.5. Let's make that 13. And the font weight, if we make that semi-bold, is that too much? Okay, that's fine. That's all right. So we can move that up a bit. And then the color of the font, where's that gone? The color, let's make it not, so black is 000. Let's do 4D, 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 and that is a slightly less dark version. Okay, so that's my name. Let's add in another label. Now, the assistance type. Let's think about this. We could be smart. We could use images. We could use the icons for the kind of technology, or we could just use text. Let's use text for now because it's just a proof of concept. And what we can do is put in, I can help with and then we use ampersand this item technology is what we're after. I can help with, why is that coming up blank? Seems that something funky is going on in our little app here. It's not wrapping, is it? No. Okay, interesting. Let's preview, see if it shows in preview. Still doesn't show. Okay. Now, let's think about this. So we can see that they're there to help with particular technology, and we can also show what kind of assistance that they're going to offer. Now, maybe people that are only happy to help out in Yammer communities and nothing else, maybe we don't show them in the app, because you might look at someone and say, oh, I know Steve, even though he says he's only going to help in the communities, I might decide that I'm just going to send him an email anyway, right? And it could get frustrating for that person. So I can't remember what I said, the level of support I would offer. In fact, it should show me, but for some reason, it's not. Okay, so let's look at so that's connected to our collection of champions, which we know is captured when the app loads. Let's do invisible. Not invisible, what am I talking about? Yeah, app, sorry. On start. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to filter the champions table, and we're going to filter it where the assistance type is not I can't remember my operators. Oh, let's see about this. Power apps, operators. Where's it in identifiers? Does not equal. Should know this. Not equal to. There we go. Right, I thought it was. Right. It's not. That's JavaScript. Does not equal. And we know Yammer communities was the option, wasn't it? Okay. So let's run that again. We might need to just double check back in. No, we're good. Spell that right. Does not equal Yammer communities. Oh, here we go. I can help with power apps. Good. Let's get rid of those dots. I can help with power apps. And yeah, let's center that. And what we'll do is we'll copy, paste it. I can help with power apps. Let's put our assistance type in there. I can help with power apps, and I help with email assistance. All right, so it's a little bit, it's not the nicest looking card, but it's not too bad really. So let's go back to our bot, and I'm going to register a game. So there'll be two of me. Remember, we haven't built any kind of validation in to check if that person exists. So we'll do a quick run through of the end-to-end story, but again, using my account as a demo. Okay, so in fact, let's publish the app. Let's publish it. So add it. Okie dokie, some crazy GUID there, I'm not sure what that's like. But essentially our bot has triggered itself, so let's say hi. Yeah, that's crazy. I've not seen that before. But anyway, let's continue. So this is our bot actually in Teams. So would I like to register as a champion? I'm going to say no. So it should say goodbye. Thanks for chatting with me. That is a scary GUID. I've never seen that before. Anyway, let's just carry on. I would like to register as a champion, so it should know who I am. And you can see how this time the UI for the bot is actually aligned with the Teams experience. So because I've got the light theme running, then you can see this is all done for me, which is great. So I'm going to be a Power Automate champion, and I'm going to get involved in Ask the Expert sessions. So remember, that should now go off and register me in Dataverse for Teams. We've got that, you're welcome, which is the wrong topic to finish a to finish a conversation with. We can fix that in a moment. So if we go back into Power Apps, you see we've got a little Champions Community bot icon there, which is wonderful. Let's go back into Power Apps, run the on start. And there we go, we've got two Steves. Unfortunately, they're right next to each other. So what we need to do here is add in a bit of padding. So you can see we've got template padding set to 0. Let's set that to 25, so it makes a bit of room. And what we'll need to do is just resize the size of the tile. Okay, so let's preview that. So now you can see there's two of me. Obviously, we can think about maybe in a follow-up session, we can think about whether this was the right way to head. But if somebody, and there's going to be the case where people want to help with more than one technology, so maybe we can just have I can help with and then use the icon for each technology. So where I've got Power Automate and Power Apps, maybe I get two little badges on my card, and then maybe an icon for the kind of help or assistance that I offer. And again, if it's email only, maybe we put a button on the user's card to start a new email. There's lots that we can still do. But that's a pretty good proof of concept. So I'm going to publish this, and then it's ready to kind of run through with the people that want to see this. So I hope this session has been useful. There's still, as I said, there are lots of things I need to do before this becomes anywhere near production. I didn't stick to my own advice and say that I'm going to have to go back and retrofit all of the accessibility labels and things that I want to do in there. There's some validation I need to do, in case the user doesn't have an image. There's lots of other things that we need to do before this becomes more of an end-to-end solution. But I'm hoping that in this first session, we've covered capturing the information in a bot, using Power Automate to take that information and store it in a Dataverse table. The Dataverse table is connected to a Power App where we can then see that information being surfaced. Now, if you think about any use case for that kind of scenario, whether it's like a service desk incident or a facilities request or a request for something, then this logic and this flow would work perfectly well with this kind of solution architecture. So yeah, that's the first session. We'll probably continue with another one in the next few days, but I hope that's been of interest and that you are still with me. Thanks.